This is the 1959 Santiago International Tournament, a memorial tournament, Torneo de Arturo Alessandri Palma, held from April 20th to May 6th, right on the heels of the Mar del Plata tournament, and 8 of the players here at Santiago also played at Mar del Plata. That was a 15-player event, this a 13-player event. Bobby, not having his best event here, tied for 4th place with 7 wins, 4 losses, and a draw. But this event held from April 20th to May 6th, 1959 in Santiago, Chile. 13 grandmasters and masters from Europe, North America, and South America competed. Well, the tournament was fairly important for Fischer, who has only recently begun to compete in international events. Just did not fare so well in this particular event. And part of the reason, according to this, that Fischer and Pachmann, after the Mar del Plata event, kind of went on a tour through South America on their way to Santiago. And apparently, in this event, several rounds, Pachmann was playing Fischer's prep, and Fischer was playing Pachmann's prep. So, you know. And it's been a long, long trip, I think, for the 16-year-old Bobby Fischer. Well, you guys remember when you were that age, no discipline at all, I'm sure. And, you know, stay up till all hours. Who knows? I'm making excuses for him. Simply said, he did not play the best chess of his life in this event, but he played some pretty good chess. This was played on April 25th, 1959. Moises Stekel Grunberg was born in Santiago, where this tournament was held, and he was born October 1st, 1936. Oh, he's still alive. I didn't realize he's still alive. He's 87 years old. Wow. Anyway, he was the chess champion of his nation in 1958, the year previous to this event. We're not surprised by e4, and if e5, we won't be surprised by the Ruy Lopez, and e5 is played, and we get knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5. No surprises. Morphy's defense, pawn a6, and the Columbus variation, bishop a4. And here we see a modern Steinitz with pawn d6, c3, bishop d7, pawn d4, and here g6 is the fianchetto defense. Bobby castles, bishop g7. Bishop g5 is simply meant to provoke f6, although that was not played in this game. Stekel Grunberg with king's knight to e7. The ECO has f6, and then the bishop returns to e3, and now knight h6 is played. Then d takes e5, and d takes e5 again is the most common. Let's go back. In this game, knight g e7, and now d takes e5 played anyway. D takes e5, queen e2, now h6, ejects the bishop, and that is moved to the e3 square. Queen c8, creating a battery here. More frequent is the castles, but queen c8. Rook d1, taking the open file. Bishop g4 is played and not liked. The bot calling for b6. To me, castling is still the right move. Let's see what we get for this. A check mark. Anyway, b6 was not what was played. That's what the bot was calling for. Bishop g4, the move from Stekel Grunberg. h3, and bishop takes the knight. It's better to keep the bishop pair and break the pin here. But bishop takes knight was played. Queen takes the bishop, and now he finally castles. Now that my hair has turned gray. Bishop c5, very strong, which is why the bot was calling for b6 earlier, by the way. The bot says, though, continue your development first. Okay, I'll buy that, but Bobby very aggressive here. Queen e6, now knight d2, and queen's rook to d8. Getting a question mark, king's rook to d8 being called for. Why king's rook to d8 over queen's rook? I'm not real sure, to be honest. That's above my pay grade, but it's a good time to quote my favorite quote in regards to the choice between the two rooks. This quote by Argentine Grandmaster Oscar Panno: when you have two rooks, both of which can move to the same square, you should carefully calculate and consider your move. And when you've made up your mind, move the other rook. Queen's rook it was in this game. I can understand why he'd want to keep his rook over here in line with our queen. I mean, there could be some nasties looming here, right? It feels more comfortable, although I guess you could just block with queen f6 here, to be honest. Anyway, it still doesn't explain in my mind why king's rook is better than queen's rook. What's this queen's rook doing over here? Why is it needing to remain there? It's unclear to me. Bishop takes the knight here. Well, perhaps it has something to do with this. Ah, yeah, I got it. I don't know why it took me so long to see that. It's because of my bishop. Get out of the pin. That's why that's the better move. So obvious, a blind caveman could have seen it. You guys put your blind caveman up in the chat. There he is. There's the blind caveman. I don't know why it took me so long to figure that out, but the reason king's rook is better is you're pinned. Get out of the pin. So obvious now. I don't know why it didn't dawn on me. All right, queen's rook was played. Bishop takes the knight, and there's the point. The knight can't take the bishop because of the pin. So you have to take with the pawn, and you're left with doubled isolated C pawns and an isolated A man. Queen e2 hits that isolated A-man. Rook b8 hits our undefended B-man. Queen takes the pawn on a6. Rook does not take the pawn on b2. He plays bishop f6. Now you may wonder, can I not take the pawn on b2? After rook takes pawn on b2, we have a battery attack against that knight that's pinned to that rook, which creates a fork. And when you save one rook, you're losing the knight. So queen takes a6. This is really all but over already, isn't it? And we're only on move 19. What a difference that made. I mean, so obvious you should have moved that rook. It's so obvious. Oh, even the blind caveman could have seen that, Danny. Queen e2, rook b8, queen takes pawn. Bishop f6 has to add a defender to that knight. That poor pinned knight. And now b4, and there's no infiltration. Queen c4 now would be a strong winning move. King's rook to d8 played here. Pawn a4. We got a nice pass pawn on the outside. g5, king h2. g4, queen c4 now, queen c8, knight f1, knight g6, knight e3, g takes h3, pawn g3. And this h-man becomes your king's best friend. Keep your friends close. Keep your enemies closer. A nice refuge for my king, because my opponent cannot capture his own pawn. Bishop g5 is played. Knight f5 on h5. Queen e6 being called for. That's going to be answered by queen e2. Not going to trade anymore. Now I'm coming this way. And if rook takes rook, then rook takes rook, and I still own the open file. Let's go back. h5 was played. King takes the h-man now with this knight obstructing the c8 h3 diagonal. It's safe to capture, and the eval bar tells us white is absolutely winning. Rook d7, king to g2. No sense in staying in the queen's line of fire. Queen d8. h4 isn't much better. h4, we're still going to play queen e2 here, and we've got points of infiltration. I guess you'd have to defend that bishop and maybe just simplify. Trade rooks and then bring the other one over. Let's go back. Queen d8 was played. Queen e2. Now h4. Rook takes rook. Queen takes rook. And we still get the same thing. Oh, except he played queen g4 here. Queen d8. Now rook d1. Queen f6, g takes h4, bishop takes h4, and bishop to e7. Bam! Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness gracious. ladles and jelly spoons. What a move. The knight is pinned. It can't take my bishop, and it can't protect its bishop. So if you save your queen, say queen where? E6, H8, G7. Can't go to G7. That's hot. Oh my goodness, this is horrific. Anyway, the point is, no matter where you move your queen, bishop takes H4. Doesn't matter where you move it. Boom. Knight can't capture. It's pinned. So another beautiful terminal tactic from Fischer, just like we saw in the first game when he pinned a bishop to a knight. Poor bishop overworked in that first game, could not forsake the A3, F8 diagonal lest a hook checkmate be played. In this example, it's just a skewer, isn't it? Let's go to the numbers. 94 accuracy in this example, but the third consecutive game with a 2,800 single game rating assessment. And he definitely outplayed his opponent right from the opening, didn't he? Just overpowered him. But really, coming back, how subtle. It took me so long to figure out such an obvious move. I don't know why it took me so long to figure this out. His chances are so much better if he eliminates this pin.